Welcome to Release Day. I'm Alex Hewitt. We all long for something. For many, it's a longing just to fit in. As a person of West Indian and Mohawk descent who grew up in a predominantly white community, that longing was all too real for Julian Taylor. Over the course of his 20 years in the music industry, Julian has carved his own path, driven by the healing power of song, sharing his life stories his own way. What started with a signing to Warner Music Canada in 1999 has led to a lifelong career in music. A career that has generated 10 albums in the last 2 decades. But Julian has never been just another musician within the music industry. He is an advocate for change and opportunity. He knows how important a vote of confidence can be for a young artist longing for community. There's no doubt in my mind that Julian has cemented his legacy amongst the best of Canadian songwriters. He doesn't just fit in, he belongs. Our history will always be a part of us. It's up to us to use it to shape our future. For Julian Taylor, that history starts at the Ridge.
Now there's a westbound wind blowing through the ridge again. Stay in or go outside.
When I was very young, I went to visit my grandparents in Maple Ridge every summer and lived there on their sort of plot of land where they had horses and bred dogs and had chickens and things like that. And it was a really wonderful upbringing. I was very lucky in that regard because my mom ended up being able to track my grandfather down. They had their family split, and my mom and her sisters and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother came to Toronto, and my grandfather and my step-grandmother met in the middle of the country, and they went west, and nobody really heard of them until my mom was old enough to sort of track them down, and that's what she did. And luckily enough for me, my grandfather took a very big part of my life, and so did my step-grandmother. And when my step-grandmother died, I wrote this song. It was, it's kind of a strenuous circumstances to when that happened, when she passed, and it was almost as if I felt like my childhood had been sort of stripped away from me, and I had to find a way back to it. And that song was able to help me do that. A theme that, that has a thread throughout the whole thing. I think that the thread would be innocence. I think the thread would be a longing to fit in somewhere. So this record hones in on that if you can find it in the underlying stories,
So yeah, you've been releasing music for, I would said almost 2 decades, but I guess over 2 decades now.
Well, yeah, and I've been releasing music the first EP for Staggered Crossing came out in 1997.
Wild. Can you?
It is wild.
Yeah.
I don't know where all the time went.
Yeah, no kidding. Can you give some perspective on how Release Day has changed from back in 97 to releasing your full length in 2001 to releasing the Ridge?
Oh, it's always exciting. I mean, the first EP, we printed like 300 tapes, right? And so we were in high school at the time, and that was pretty exciting. We had a keg party in my parents' backyard. You could come in and you could buy a tape and get like two solo cups. And we thought that was pretty cool, My parents, I don't know how cool they thought it was, but because it got pretty messy. But that was my very first release day. We celebrated with a cassette tape. And people in high school really enjoyed that, and that made its way to a publisher who eventually signed us, and then because of that, I got signed to Warner Music, and they put out the first Staggered Crossing record. After that, release date changed because I ended up putting things out mostly independently. The last record was put out by Gypsy Soul. I've worked with Emporia Records as well, and they're really great people, and they put out Desert Star.
Through these groups have been labeled pop, it's been labeled R&B and soul, and now you're here at the roots rock Americana genre. Can you identify almost what ultimately landed you here?
Not really. I mean, it's all rock and roll to me. I didn't set out to make a roots record. I set out to make a record of songs I'd written, which is always what I've done. I never went out and set out to make a pop record or a rock record. I've never done that. I write songs on an acoustic guitar and on a piano, and the song dictates where to go. And what I've gotten better at, I think, over the years is grouping a bunch of the songs that might sound similar together.
It's not a fun subject, but I just wanted to touch on the pandemic and, how it's had an effect on yourself from a business point of view, and how you feel it's had an effect on the music industry and the future of the music industry.
Wow. Well, it's had a huge effect on the music industry, as everyone knows. It's on the verge of, collapse. For me, it's affected me certainly on a mental. It's hard. This has been tough. I mean, homeschooling, being a parent, working and trying to get this, like all of these things, all of the compound pressures of being everything all the time. I'm sure it's been tough on a lot of people. From a musical standpoint, and business-wise, it's been okay. I've been lucky to score some pretty cool things. Like I was invited to do the Music Together. The NAC Canada performs. That's Sirius XM and Slate Music Again and Facebook, and really cool that those people have put those initiatives together. And I've been very fortunate to be able to benefit from their forward thinking and action. I don't know what else is going on around the world, but we're very lucky in Canada that the music industry rallies around itself and the people in it.